What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another week of NFL picks, week three of NFL picks. And the first 2 weeks, I have had a really great first 2 weeks watching football, getting back into the groove. An amazing first 2 weeks. Going to be another amazing week this Sunday. Obviously, starting with Thursday night and then ending off with Monday. So let's get into it. And I thought I did well week one. I did really well last week. Went 13-3, overall record 24-8. Really feel like I've been, having good luck so far with a lot of these games. So definitely happy to see that. And gonna look to keep this momentum going another week. So getting into it, starting off with Thursday night football and a divisional matchup in the AFC East. The Dolphins at the Bills, and honestly, I just think that when you look at the state of both these teams, Buffalo has probably been the best team in the NFL through the first 2 weeks, and Miami has probably been one of the worst. It really feels like for both these teams, it's been polar opposites of the spectrum, and I think the Bills should take care of the Dolphins. I have no doubt that they will. I think that you don't have to talk much more about it. So I think this could be a rough night for Miami on Thursday. So give me the Bills to win. Moving into Sunday's action and talking about a game that has really kind of been flipped upside its head the past few days. The Cincinnati Bengals and the Minnesota Vikings, and both of these teams now missing their starting quarterbacks. Obviously, we heard Joe Burrow suffered turf toe and he's going to have surgery on it. He's going to be out until December, and JJ McCarthy suffered a high ankle sprain. He's going to be out a couple weeks with that. But it's not like both these teams don't have capable backups, because they do. Jake Browning has proved to be a very capable backup for Cincinnati and win some games for Burrow. Is he Joe Burrow? Absolutely not. But he has proven to be effective when called upon. And same for Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz and the Vikings, and it really actually feels like right now that I wouldn't be shocked if Carson Wentz actually gives them a better chance to win than McCarthy does. I really feel like you look at what Kevin O'Connell was able to do for Sam Darnold last year. He had the best year of his career. Carson Wentz has kind of taken a similar track with his career. He had an amazing start to it before injuries derailed it, and he's really spent the past few years just being a journeyman backup, now getting an opportunity. And it feels like a game that could go either way, but I think Kevin O'Connell's gonna set Cincinnati is gonna set the Vikings up with enough opportunities to be in good positions. Obviously, they had a very rough Sunday night against the Falcons. They're going to be better than that. And I think we're going to see the Vikings come away with a win here. I think Minnesota is going to win, give the Bengals their first loss of the season. Both teams will move to 2-1 after this. Next game, the Houston Texans, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and for the Texans, it's been a pretty miserable start to the season. It really just felt like Monday night versus Tampa, that they absolutely let that game slip right through their hands. They had opportunity after opportunity, and they still couldn't get it done. It felt like there was no urgency late in that game from the Texans at all. They just basically handed that game to the Bucks at the end. And as far as Jacksonville goes, it's been an up and down first week. You saw them get a win versus Carolina week one. You saw them lose in Cincinnati. So it's kind of, we're getting ready to, I really think, find out how good this Jacksonville team is. If the Jaguars are able to get this win and what now appears to be a more wide open AFC South, it could be a big opportunity for them, especially considering the Texans were the team everyone thought would take this division in the end. But I just feel like the Texans. I feel like they gotta get a win. I think that is bottom line. They have to get a win soon. I think we're going to see that. If the Texans fall to 0-3, it could get pretty rough, especially considering this is a divisional game. But I think the Texans are going to take care of this. Are going to get their first win of the season. The other two teams in the AFC South are also facing off, the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans. And the Colts are one of the most surprising teams, I think, through the first 2 weeks. I don't think many people would have thought they'd be 2-0, but they are. They got a very convincing win week 1, and they pulled out a win week 2 against Denver. I think we are seeing a team that Daniel Jones is taking the most of his opportunity. Shane Steichen, I feel like, has been very impressive with the job he's doing early this season. Now you head into Nashville and take on the Titans, where it really just feels like Cam Ward and them, they're getting better, but I think the question is, do they really have the talent yet? And that could be what holds them back in a lot of these spots this year. So it feels like one that you wouldn't be shocked to see because it feels like eventually the Colts could have a letdown spot. But I think the Colts are going to get another win. I think they're going to start the year 3-0. I think they get the win in Nashville and go to 3-0, and the Titans fall to 0-3. Next game, two 1-1 teams, Las Vegas and Washington, and the big story heading into this game is Jane Daniels. Is he or is he not playing on Sunday with the knee injury? If not, it will be Marcus Mariota playing for the Raiders. Geno Smith, it's been a pretty. He had a pretty rough Monday night, throwing 3 interceptions. So you're looking for a bounce back spot there. Mariota, if he were to start, would be going against one of his former teams. So I'm just going to be honest. I really get the vibe that whether it's Daniels or whether it's Mariota, because Marcus Mariota is a capable backup. If you need him to go and win a game every now and then, he's not an every week starter, obviously, but if you need him to go win a game every now and then, he has proven he can do that. So I'm going to go ahead. I still am going to pick Washington to win. Them being at home, I think, gives them the advantage. I think they're going to go and they're going to get the win. Next game. Now, this game, when I tell you, I do not. You always have the one game every year. You do not know how it is a 1 o'clock game. And this is the game. I don't know how this isn't 425, how this isn't Sunday Night Football. This was an absolute failure by the NFL schedule makers. A rematch of last year's divisional round, and it is shaping up to maybe be game of the week. The Rams and the Eagles from the link. Obviously, the Eagles last year, we know the story 2 times against the Rams. Saquon Barkley just took off in both those games and led the Eagles to victory. And for the Rams, they were the team, though, that came closest to dethroning Philly when it was playoff time last year. So, that I think it's just what makes it so tough because it's not going to be snowing in Philly on Sunday last time I checked. It is September. It's probably one of the better times to be going up there as far as weather is concerned for the Rams. So it really feels like a 50-50 matchup. I could see either team winning this game, but ultimately think that you just being at home, I just trust the Eagles a little bit more. That I feel like I have to go with them, even though I almost picked the Rams. I really almost picked the Rams. The Rams, I'm going to kind of be punching myself, but I really feel like it could go either way. It's a 50-50 game. It's probably been the toughest game to pick so far all season. So I'm going to pick the Eagles here to squeak by with the win, but it's going to be an amazing game. Next up, the Falcons going to Charlotte, going to Mercedes-Benz North to take on the Carolina Panthers. The Falcons getting their first win of the year on Sunday Night Football last week. A big defensive performance, a coming out party for the 4 rookies that the Falcons drafted in this past April's draft. And for the Panthers, I mean, you want to talk about a team that really feels like has had an underwhelming 2 weeks. did not have a good performance in Jacksonville. And yes, they were in that game late versus the Cardinals. They still couldn't take advantage of it, and the Cardinals really let them back into that game. Now, you do have to face it, this is their home opener. So I'm sure the Panthers are going to be more into it. That crowd, we all know that when they play the Falcons, that's probably the game they look forward to most every year. So I feel like for Atlanta, you have to come out and you cannot have a disappointment spot here. You got to take care of business here. You got momentum going into this game. You got to take care of business. With that being said, the Panthers have a ton of O-line injuries. So I'm picking the Falcons to win. I think they have momentum. I think they are clearly the better team. They have the better quarterback, the more capable quarterback, and I really think the Falcons going to Charlotte take care of business. They should take care of the Panthers pretty handily. So give me the Falcons. Next game, and this is an interesting spot I think for both teams, the Steelers and the Patriots. As far as Pittsburgh goes, it really feels like that one big miscue against Seattle um, that really cost them the game. And for New England, it also feels like they're a team that's getting better. They're learning. They're young, but they are getting better. We see the vision coming under Mike Vrabel. But I will say, I feel like if this was a game that was later in the season, I definitely could see the Patriots being able to get this win. But just because it's early, I still feel like Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers is a veteran, even though it's only his third game as a Steeler. He is a veteran, and we saw them go into MetLife Week 1 and get a big win. Now that I think the Patriots are better than the Jets, but still, I think it's early. So give me the Steelers. I think the Steelers win this one. So give me the Steelers to win. I think they go to 2-1. New England drops to 1-2. Next game, the Green Bay Packers, the Cleveland Browns from Cleveland, and I really feel like the Browns have been so far what about we expected them to be. I think Joe Flacco is playing all right. I don't know how much longer he can hold off the Browns going to one of the rookies. As far as Green Bay goes, they have looked like one of the best teams in the league, also right up there with Buffalo and Baltimore and Philadelphia and all those teams. So it feels like for the Packers, it's a great spot to go 3-0. I think it's what's going to happen. I think you're going to see Green Bay come out. I think they get the win. They take care of business. They go to 3-0. Cleveland drops to 0-3. And another matchup between a team that's 0-2 and a team that's 2-0. The Jets and the Bucks. Now, I definitely feel like for the Jets, where it's kind of interesting because obviously they, got blown out last week by Buffalo, but then they played the Steelers really tough week 1. I think the big question for them is Justin Fields and his concussion. Is he going to play? Fields, I definitely think, could give them a better chance than Tyrod Taylor, even though Tyrod Taylor is not incapable. As far as Tampa goes, though, I think they're just a much better team. I think that we see a team that they're always going to play with fire. They're no matter what week it is, Tampa's always going to play like they have a chip on their shoulder. That is just their culture down there. So give me the Bucks to win. I think the Bucks go in there. I think they take care of business. I think they go to 3-0. Heading into some of these late window games, and this could be a pretty important one down the stretch. The Broncos at the Chargers. Now, it feels like a tough game. It feels like a game that could be pretty evenly matched between two of the wildcard teams from last year. The Chargers have had a pretty impressive first 2 weeks, while Denver, it really feels like it's come out a little sluggish. It being at the Chargers, them being 2-0, their first time playing in SoFi this season. I feel like it's going to be close, but in the end, at home, I just trust Herbert and Harbaugh just more to squeak out a win, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think you're going to see the Chargers get a win here and squeak it out in a close game. I think they go to 3-0, and the Broncos drop to 1-2. Next game, The Saints at the Seahawks, New Orleans 0-2, Seattle 1-1 getting their first win in Pittsburgh on Sunday. And once again, I think it's a spot for Seattle where you should win, but you just cannot have a letdown. Because I do think we have to face that the Saints, even though it's only 2 games, they haven't. They've kind of been sticking around in these games so far, and it feels like eventually they could come out with a victory in one of them. But in the end, I think it being in Seattle, as long as they go out, they take care of business. I think the Seahawks should get a win and go over 500, and the Saints drop to 0-3. Next game, the Dallas Cowboys at the Chicago Bears, and for Chicago, it's really been a rough start for them. It feels like looking at that schedule soon, they had to start getting a win. As far as the Cowboys go, they had a crazy win versus the Giants last Sunday. So I'll say this: it feels like a game that Dallas has more experience winning, but I also get the feeling that Chicago knows they have to get their first win. They know they have to do it, and I think, regardless, because it is the Cowboys, this would be a big stage to do it on. So I'm actually going to pick the Bears to squeak out their first win of the season here. I think they just get it done, and both teams will be 1-2 after this game. And then a matchup between two teams in the NFC West who are 2-0. This game actually will determine who leads that division early, the Arizona Cardinals or the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco missing Brock Purdy. Mac Jones filling in nicely for them last week in New Orleans. Now looking to continue that here in what is going to be a pretty important game. Arizona, they have a 2-0 start with wins against the Saints and Panthers. So this could be an opportunity for them to solidify that solid start early. And it feels like a game that could go either way. This is a game that Arizona has won in recent years. So I do think you have to realize that. I do think you have to, keep that all into account. But with that being said, I really do feel like that, San Francisco with Mac Jones, he's a very capable backup. I don't think he's necessarily been done justice by other teams. I think he's finally in a solid position with Shanahan. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give San Francisco the win. It feels like another one. It could go either way. It was pretty 50-50, but I'm going to go ahead and give San Francisco the win to go to 3-0. Sunday night football from the Meadowlands, a battle between two 0-2 teams, and I don't think there's any universe where we ever would have imagined the Chiefs being an 0-2 team. But it's this universe. They have had a tough loss versus the Chargers week 1, and they had a tough loss against the Eagles in Arrowhead last week. Now they head into New York. They face the Giants, a Giants team that had a pretty explosive outing on offense. So they are playing with something based off what we saw last game. But I just think Kansas City knows they got to get the win. And I don't think it's a question that they will get it. Um, if the Chiefs go on 3, I really don't even know what that world honestly looks like. So I think we're going to see the Chiefs get the win. I don't know how convincing it is. I could see the Giants staying in the game, but I think the Chiefs they're going to pull out the win. They get their first one of the year on Sunday night, and then Monday night football in Baltimore. This is going to be a really good game. Also, the Lions. There were a lot of questions about really where they were week 1 after losing in Green Bay. And we saw that they bounced back in a big way, scoring 52 points in their win versus Chicago. And then the Ravens have been literally right there with the Bills. I think they have been right behind Buffalo as far as the best teams early in this season do go. So it's going to be a great game. And I just think though in Baltimore, I think you gotta pick the Ravens. I just think that it is their spot. It's a game that they win. You know, I definitely think you respect the Lions, but at the same time, this is just a game that Baltimore has won time and time again. Now the Lions do have history with sneaking out these wins, especially in prime time, but I just think we're gonna see Baltimore come out. We're gonna see them edge them out here, but I think it should be a pretty great game. Anyways, with that being said, appreciate you all for watching. Remember to like, remember to subscribe, remember to share it out, and I will see you all in the next one.